All of time and space. Everywhere and anywhere, every star that ever was. Where do you want to start?
And welcome to All of Time and Space, and Merry Christmas. We were looking to go somewhere a little bit more festive this year, so we had a little look on Space B&B and found this charming spot on Marinus. It's a beautiful, picturesque, snowy landscape, and we have found a perfect spot. It's a lovely log cabin owned by a gentleman called Vasor. So before our special Christmas guests arrive, let's have a clip, and we'll be back after this.
This is obviously the main shaft bored by the Daleks, leading straight to the fracture. Now, alongside it here is the original shaft of the old mine, which leads to the meeting point of the magnetic influence of the North and South poles.
That shaft is boarded up now.
Yes, but it is my belief that if we could somehow deflect their device down the old mine, the field of magnetism so released would be powerful enough to suck the Daleks into the very core of the Earth.
I know how we could deflect it.
Good. Tom, you were with him. Now, the rest of us must cause some sort of diversion.
I'm not in the rest of us.
No, I didn't think you would be. No profit in it, is there?
None. See you.
Now then, you two, on your way.
What kind of a diversion are you going to make?
You'll know when it happens, and when it does, get everybody away from this area as fast as you can.
Good luck.
What do you want us to do? David, I want you to take Louise and find a good hiding place for her. Then help get the people away from the mine.
Right.
Well, what about you?
I shall stay here.
But-
I have a reason.
Well, why can't we stay here with you?
No. It is time for you to go. Take care of her.
And welcome back and Merry Christmas! It's Christmas Day, everyone! Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
And yes, if you haven't recognised those wonderful voices, we have been joined by Nathan and Brendan from Flight Through Entirety. Hello, guys!
Hey, hello!
Hello.
Well, Merry Christmas to you both. Thank you so much for joining us on Christmas Day. I mean, taking time out on Christmas Day.
Yeah,
You
no,
really
we don't
are.
have Christmas Day in Australia, so it's fine.
Wow, you're all down the beach, aren't you?
Yeah, watching cricket at the beach.
Yeah.
Whole thing.
Yeah, it's
Sounds awful.
too hot to eat anything.
Yeah.
Well, we thought it was high time we went back to the movies because we've already covered the first Dalek movie, and with the very sad passing of the legend that is Bernard Cribbins, we thought it would be a nice time to just go back and look at what I feel at least is a highlight of his time in his association with Doctor Who. So we're going to be looking at the Daleks Invasion of Earth 2150 AD. Now, I don't know about you guys, it might have been a different whole story in Australia, but for old codgers like me and Iain, who are in the UK, this movie, for me, tends to sum up bank holiday Monday viewing. They usually stick on some sort of fairly low-budget movie on a bank holiday Monday on Channel 4. And I think that's probably the first time I got to see this. Would it have been shown on the ABC back in the day, or...?
No. What's your memory of it, Brendan? I can't remember watching it as a child at all.
So, when I was a kid, a video shop near us had the first movie, but not the second one. And one night in the TV guide, there was a film on called Invasion, and it was from the year 1966. And sometimes the TV guide would abbreviate titles, but so I set up the VCR to record it. But when I looked at it the next day, it was a completely different film, and I now realise it was the film Invasion, written by Robert Holmes, on which he based Spearhead from Space. But at the time, I just went, "There's no Daleks in this. Off you pop."
Even back then, you were just, into the deep cuts.
Yeah.
So what was the first time that you guys came to this realisation that it was this whole sort of other universe with Peter Cushing as a doctor.
I think we'd always kind of read about it in the sort of terrible secondary literature that we were forced to put up with at gunpoint in the sort of 1980s and 90s, you know, the sort of House Dammers Walker thing. So I think we were sort of all sort of aware of it. And I did watch the first film as a child, and I have an abiding memory of being horrified that it didn't have the title sequence or the music at all.
Yeah.
And that the Doctor had a moustache. I am already
I mean, oh
in
my
therapy
goodness,
about Shooty with his
Yeah.
moustache.
Yeah.
But obviously the first real sort of trauma was Cushing and his moustache. I suppose he had to have it so he didn't look like Van Helsing or something. Is that what
It's a very different vibe, isn't it, from the TV version? So
Yes.
for TV viewers of the time, you get this haunting sort of black and white maelstrom coming at you with this really crazy music that no one had ever heard before, whereas this is very much Technicolor and jazz hands. And isn't it the guy that used to do the music for the Thunderbirds movies? I'm pretty sure it's him that was the composer on these.
Yes. Yeah, Barry Gray.
That's the chap.
And the
Yeah.
titles are sort of an oily puddle, aren't they? It's like a whole bunch of paint being poured down the sink or something.
Yeah, sort of cloudy, sort of, yes. Yeah. I mean, I suppose it would have been quite psychedelic for the time compared to watching a black and white TV program.
It's like something French New Wave, but slightly shit.
So yeah, I think I'd seen this before I'd seen the actual TV version. I think this was the one that I was the most familiar with, and I remember watching it as a kid and thinking it was brilliant. And yeah, I was completely gobsmacked that there was this movie version. I didn't realise they had a movie with this other Doctor, and he was called Doctor Who as well. That was a bit strange.
Yeah, it's one of these kind of heretical texts that people who don't like Doctor Who watch on a bank holiday and then come into school the next day and say, oh yeah, I watched Doctor Who, I really like Doctor Who, he was really funny. And you as a kind of precious 8-year-old are going, no, he's not called Doctor Who, he doesn't have a moustache, the films are wrong. All of which is designed to make you a very popular 8-year-old who doesn't get beaten up all the time.
So the
It's gone dark. Pull it back.
So the 8-year-olds who edit TARDIS Wikia or whatever it calls itself, fandom TARDIS thing, have not valid in capital letters as one word after every mention of these films. So they didn't really happen, is the important takeaway in the way that Dalek Invasion of Earth actually happened.
Right.
I mean, you could argue after the Timeless Children that everything's canon now. So,
Well, in fact,
this is just another
Or
offshoot.
nothing.
Moffat makes it canon because in in the novelisation of The Day of the Doctor,
That's right.
the Doctor is friends with Peter Cushing and tells him all about his first 2 Dalek adventures, and then Peter Cushing goes away and makes films about them.
Yeah, they wanted the posters in the Black Archive, didn't they? In the, the 50th, but they couldn't get the rights or something, which is a shame.
I remember in the 90s there was a fan theory that when Ian and Barbara got back to London, they couldn't get employed as teachers anymore because they couldn't explain what happened to the 15-year-old girl they followed home. So they had to make some money. So they sold their ideas for the movies.
I like
And
it,
the chase
yeah.
didn't get made because it's just like, no, you can't have a solution involving a cardigan. What are you talking about?
I mean, most of season 2 involves cardigans
Yeah.
being the solution. Yeah, it's,
Exactly.
it's a major
Goes to show
plot
what
point.
movie
That's-
execs know.
Exactly. That was the Bad Wolf of its day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Bad cardigan. So.
Yeah. So we have Doctor Who and Susan, who's a little girl, not a teenager, and we have Louise, who, I mean, do we want to talk about her choice of outfit in this movie? I'm getting the impression that John Pertwee was watching this for ideas on how to dress his Doctor. The touch of the Miss Marples as well.
It's really not very flattering, is it? It's quite unpleasant, I think.
It's this kind of batwing tweed thing, isn't it? It's quite bizarre.
It's the sort of thing the village doctor would have worn in as you say, like an Agatha Christie murder mystery. You know, the first time I saw it, I mean, there are many things in this film when you see it, you kind of, whatever it is you're eating, you start spilling
sugar
it
puffs,
open-mouthed
probably.
in slack-jawed wonderment. But it was a hideous costume.
I mean, it's the 1960s and it's London. What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
goodness
Yeah,
me.
Why, you know, a mini skirt, a little tiny smashing blouse.
She could have borrowed one of Kathy Gale's kind of cat suits or something. Like, it's, you know, it's completely
I'm just
baffling.
going to think about that. Give me
Yeah.
You go off for a bit.
But, you know, it's also really weird that we, as you say, Nathan, we're in the 60s. Everyone in the first film had some sort of, you know, quite brightly coloured costume, because we're in the 60s. And here, you know, Cushing's costume is even brighter than the first movie, and Roberta Toby's running around in her little red sort of smock. And then Jill's in brown.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
whereas Barbara in the first film was in like cyan and magenta, you know.
I mean, they had to go for mega super scope just to get her hairdo in, didn't they? That was
Yeah, maybe this time round they just didn't have a budget for colour or big hair. Or
made Jacqueline's look
anything.
like a flat top. It was unbelievable. Yeah.
I mean, so let's sort of cut through all this waffle and get straight to the most important kind of meat of the conversation. What do we think of Peter Cushing's scarf?
It was powder blue, wasn't it? It was,
It's very, very blue. Very nice blue. Lovely blue. I'm here for that scarf.
yeah.
I like the jacket a lot, actually. I'm a big fan of the jacket. I think the outfit's pretty good, and it does, you know, it probably shows a way forward for new future Doctors, which we hadn't even imagined as a thing, to have fabulous outfits like that. I reckon it's a pretty good one.
I'm thinking Capaldi is referencing it when he wears the velvet jacket. So, you know, it's legitimate. It's canon.
Yeah.
No matter what you might think of the source material, but the clothing, the fashions.
Well, I mean, because as Mark said, this is the version of Dalek Invasion of Earth that everyone watched and that everyone had access to for decades. And it's the version that Russell kind of leans into in, you know, End of Time. No, in Journey's End and stuff like that. You know, there's references to it as well. Like, I think this is as canon as everything. I'm prepared to say that Richard Martin's masterwork, The Dalek Invasion of Earth, isn't canon, and this is. Why the hell not? Whatever.
I guess it's Christmas. We can,
Yeah. Any correspondence, if you'd like to send it to FT.
Yeah, send it to me.
Podcast.
Come on.
Yeah.
Bring it.
I'm just going to get underneath the desk just in case any marauding gangs of Doctor Who people come a-calling with hammers.
So we've moved on from the rather inept Iain, and we now have Tom Campbell.
Oh.
No, not you, Iain.
I was going to say, I thought I'd been given the sack live on air again.
Yeah, we've got a Ouija board here, and we're going to bring Bernard Cribbins in to replace
I like
you.
the way that he's introduced and then the payoff at the end. I like that. I think that's just a nice little character moment for him. And just before because I know I'm going to forget if I don't mention it now, that scene where he's kind of stumbled into the TARDIS and they're like, oh, well, we'll have to take him with us now. And the TARDIS is disappearing. The guy's running towards the police box to phone the police because there's been a raid on the jewellers. Was that Ian Levine gurning at the camera when he falls down? I swear it was him.
He does look at the camera in a kind of, you know who I am, I'm that jolly chap off telly kind of way.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, except I have no idea who he is.
I think the most significant thing with the Cribmeister in this film is when he dresses up as a Robo-Man.
Oh, my good lord.
And he's got that thing and the helmet and that profile.
Yeah.
And from that, we get Judge Dredd. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all makes sense now. Yeah.
I reckon you are.
So I think that's this film's
I mean, that is a
enduring legacy
dramatic
right there.
difference, isn't it, from the TV version? They've gone from sort of slightly shabby tramps with ashtrays on their heads to, well, PVC space gimps, really, aren't they? They're just with whips and everything.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you're going to enslave the world, you might as well have a bit of fun while you're doing it.
Very few of them can put their sunglasses on straight, though.
No, there was one in particular
Yeah.
in the food scene where they're sitting down on the benches and his helmet is all to cock.
Well,
It's all like that.
Yeah.
yeah. And Cribbins is
That,
there, like...
that won't work on audio, guys. I was doing the thing where you make your glasses go
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
Carry on, as you were.
But Cribbins is there trying not to be spotted, and I reckon if he'd been spotted, he could have just said, "Look at that guy! He's not even got the helmet on properly. What do you mean I'm not eating food in synchronization with everyone else?"
And who knew that the Daleks could create jelly beans and dolly mixtures? That's incredible. They're a food machine. Very advanced stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know that nutritionists on Skaro are operating on quite the same rules we are here on Earth.
Okay.
It seemed, laughable to us because we know about things like carbohydrates and proteins and nice foods. And they seem to have completely glossed over the first two food groups and they just eat sweets all the time.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it
I
might
suppose what I'm
explain
saying
why
is,
they're
can I be a Dalek?
quite so aggressive and shouty, and
You think they've just got
they've just overdosed
sort
on
of
it.
sugar
Yeah,
rush?
Yeah. I
Like
bet there's
a-
E
like
numbers
a-
in there like no one's business as well. Yeah.
Do you think it's the production team trying to explain why in 2150 all the Robomen have such kind of terrible post-war English teeth? Is that could that be it?
Could be.
Yeah, I love the way with these films they can predict so much that might change,
Yeah.
and they can look at so many aspects of your life and
Yeah.
think, well, that could be radically different.
Yeah.
But some things will never change,
Yeah.
and they are fashion and teeth.
Yeah.
See, I think they missed a trick because the food dispenser should have been dispensing sugar puffs.
Yeah.
Tie-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doctor Who's first sponsorship deal. I mean, I
Nice.
think only sort of in-story sponsorship deal at the moment. Of course,
Well, didn't they have Disney Plus on the Space-Time Visualizer at one point? I'm pretty sure I saw that somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's actually how for season 2, the collection coming out in international regions, that's how they're solving the Beatles problem. So instead of you squash my favourite Beatles, you trot on my favourite mouse, and they've got Steve Noonan in from Big Finish to re-record the line. They're going to show Steamboat Willie on the Time Space Visualizer, seamlessly integrated, and just to make everyone happy, the Time Space Visualizer is also going to show the bit from the Macra Terror that they cut out of the animation of the Doctor being thrown in the rough and tumble machine.
Nice.
So, and there'll be a ping when you have to swap the disc.
And there'll probably be a bit of Baby Yoda as well, just because they like to cross-promote.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll be all for that. Yeah, so they turn up in the far future with lots of 1960s vehicles and bad teeth and fashion. I'd noticed that they had that initial collapse of the building around them, and two sort of fairly small girders land in front of the TARDIS. They make very little effort to try and move them out of the way. Just like, oh well, we're never going to get back in again. We're going to have to go off and find some sort of moving vehicle.
That's because they know that everybody watching it has read the book by Terence Dicks, and they know it's actually a lot of girders that cannot be moved, and they need some cutting equipment.
Yeah.
And
Like scissors are going to help, I don't know.
And the thing is, like, unlike the TV version, you actually have someone about 3 feet tall. You could probably slip between the gaps in this version.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Susan, a girder may fall on you, but at this point, why don't we just squeeze you in there?
It's, it probably won't, and if it does. Why do we think they changed the characters for this film? I mean, obviously getting a big name like Bernard Cribbins in is obviously a good idea, but he could have been playing a slightly different version of Iain, so why have we got, Why is it not the same? I don't like change.
Who played Barbara? Brendan? Who played Barbara?
That was Jenny Linden. Yeah.
And she was busy. She was doing her hair, which, let's face it,
It had escaped. She was chasing it. She was chasing it across the South Downs with a big net.
Yeah, according to the very reliable font of all knowledge, IMDb, both Roy Castle and Jenny Linden were busy on other projects. But I have heard from other sources that Roy Castle wasn't available, so they went, okay, well, we won't have him, and they didn't even bother to ask Jenny Linden because it's the 1960s and the female characters are adjunct to the male characters. So yeah, because Roy Castle couldn't do it, they're just like, okay, well, if we don't have Iain, we don't have Barbara, which is totally the other way round on television.
Yeah. In fact, all of the good Barbara bits on the TV thing get given to men. It's super depressing. It's and there's hardly any women in it. It's like the two women. Oh, and Eileen Way and her friend, obviously.
And Eileen Way, I was going to say. And her eyebrows.
And her girlfriend.
Sheila Staple. Yeah. Who you think was in Doctor Who, and then you go, oh, wait, no, that was Vivian Faye.
She's pretty great, isn't she? She is pretty damn awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a bit of a sausage fest, isn't it? Let's be honest.
And some ugly men, I thought, as well. Like, they look rough. And I guess it is a post-war England thing, or it's like is it England and the Germans won the war or something? I mean, that seems to be the vibe. And it's a super weird vibe for a children's program in the 1960s. Like, I think it works on TV, but it's very strange on film, I think.
On that subject, I did notice they were very keen for characters, especially so-called heroes in the plot, to be running around with knives just stabbing people and left, right and centre.
Yeah,
it's obviously a very different time rifles. In the 60s.
Yeah, there's a bit where the Doctor and David are, making their way across the countryside, and the Doctor's like, oh yes, well, if we take this route, we'll get to Bedfordshire. And suddenly there's a noise, and David spins around and throws his machete into the chest of a rover man who falls into the river, and the Doctor just goes, yes, as I was saying, we're going to Bedfordshire. It's just so tonally weird. Like, there's no kind of, oh, this was a person once, like there is in the TV version. It's just Cushing going, I was looking at a map. How dare you interrupt me with your submachine gun in this children's movie?
I would say it's sort of typical 60s toxic masculinity, but hands up if you can see Colin Baker doing exactly the same thing.
Colin Baker would be standing over the corpse with the map shouting, I was saying!
Yes, I've lost my place now! But he'd be shouting in a way that didn't ultimately convince.
No.
Nice to see a bit of representation for the Antipodeans there. Did you notice Tim Finn from Split Ends was playing Dortmund, the guy in the wheelchair?
I thought he was Kenneth Branagh. He has that same no lips Kenneth Branagh look,
Quite the boof.
Yes, it is quite
He was rocking a boof on, yeah.
He's actually pretty good in that wheelchair. I had to, he's sort of spinning around and, getting on his mark and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of good. And it is actually not a bad thing. I mean, serious representation. He's a disabled person who isn't kind of evil or going to kill us all. And I really like the bit at the end where he goes, I stuffed up all the exploding Daleks in Sloane Square, so I'm just going to wheel myself straight into these guys with a big bag full of bombs and blow them up. I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it didn't help that his mate was shouting, oi, oi, come back! Just as he was trying to sneak up on the Daleks, and they just turn around and blast him. It's like, come on, give him a chance.
And then all these bricks fall on him. But like the trooper he is, he takes time out to reach down to the wheel of the thing and spin it round so that you know that he's dead.
Yeah. Very sad. Speaking of stunts and bricks falling, that guy, Thompson, who takes a tumble from the the roof at the start. That was amazing.
He gives that awning a really solid falling
he
through.
really
It
does,
knows
yeah.
it's been fallen through that awning. It's fantastic.
That was very good. I think last time we talked about the first movie, Iain suggested that the Daleks had moved on from trying to use lasers and they were killing everyone with Lynx Africa. It's still very much the case, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I teach in a boys' school, and I can assure you that it is as toxic as a Dalek laser beam.
I mean, is it worse than the alternative? I mean,
it's a toss-up. After lunch, probably.
Would it be better if they just didn't bother?
Mostly they don't. Oh my god. Anyway, I think they're really good because any laser beams in a cheap film like this in the 1960s would have just looked miserable. And at least these are things that can be seen by the camera. I think it's pretty great.
And the sound that the guns make, that whooshing sound, when you turn it up in the mix as they do here, it is quite frightening. Like it is a jump scare kind of sound. Like maybe not when 7 of them are firing at the same time, but you know that something is happening. And like, of course, in the first film, it's like so close you can feel their fire extinguishers. Slightly off topic, but there's a great moment in one of the documentaries where Jenny Linden and Roberta Tovey are talking about how the guns worked, and Roberta Tovey says, "Oh yeah, it was a fire extinguisher," and Jenny Linden says, "No, I think it was foam," and they just keep going back and forth about whether it was fire extinguishers or foam. And Roberta Tovey says, "Yeah, and they were really scary for fire extinguishers. Foam," and then it cuts.
Wow.
so somewhere on the cutting room floor is a massive punch up between them.
Yeah. It's like, how would a foam gun have worked, Jenny?
My money's on Tovey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Daleks were just sort of jizzing themselves. And what, that's fatal? Wow.
Well, it was at the end of Resurrection of the Daleks, obviously.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes. Well, on the subject of Dalek technology, what do we think of
I thought you were going to say Dalek jizzing.
Well, I mean, the night is still young. What did you think of the Dalek saucer in comparison to the one from the TV version?
Brendan and I went and saw the new 12K re-release.
Oh yeah. That's not going to do it any favours, is it? Really?
We even got it here in the colonies, and it's impressive actually when you see the string, just how much of it there is. Like there's about 15 strings keeping the thing kind of.
It does look like a
level.
big model. I mean.
It's yeah. Whereas on the actual TV show, it looks like there's just 2 strings coming out the side of the saucer, which is why it's wobbling like a bastard as it goes past the sort of the camera. But this one, like it's like a pretty impressive sort of reticular lash up happening, keeping it steady. I think the saucer is fantastic.
Yeah, and you've got the spinny lights around the edge as well. It's all very exciting.
And it's a gorgeous design.
It is.
And they use a sort of semi-translucent plastic, I think, because it has this inner glow at times. And, that was quite popular in UFO films in the 60s. But, yeah, it looks gorgeous here. As for the strings, I can say you can't really make them out on DVD, and it's one of these times where I love getting 4K restorations of this kind of stuff, but it's like at that point I wouldn't mind a bit of computer blurring.
No,
just on the sky.
No, I demand absolute truth on nothing.
That would have halved my enjoyment of the film, I think.
But it's kind of like when Fox did an HD restoration of Buffy, but forgot to put the filters back on and went, we're going to go with widescreen. It's like, yeah, well, it was shot for 4:3, so now you've got cameramen in shot because you haven't actually looked at it. It's like there is a degree of intentionality here, the makers at the time would have gone, we'll use this gauge of string because it can't be seen at this resolution. Well, surprise, 50 years later.
Hey, look, when it comes to floor managers being in camera, I mean, Doctor Who was doing that years before.
Yeah, true. It is the spirit of Richard Martin at work.
Exactly, yeah.
The that'll do spirit of Richard Martin.
I think it's interesting, though, because like with the first film, I feel like it was taking the source material and doing a really good job of kind of rising above it and making something really special. This one, and I don't know if it's just the casting of Bernard Cribbins, but from the word go, it just seems like it's a lot less ambitious, a lot less serious, and just, the money's run out.
I think what you're trying to say is it's a lot more fun, Ian.
That is what you would like me to say. And that is what I'm saying. Listeners, I have now received an envelope which contains £5 English, which is currently worth absolutely nothing. Won't even buy me a packet of crisps.
Oh dear. No, I'm actually with you on this one, Ian. I find this film to be the lesser of the two, and watching it in the cinema a couple of months ago, back to back with the first one, it sort of struck me that what's kind of missing and what you don't quite realise is there in the original is there is actually a lot of emotion in the original one, which, because we're stripping out the sort of adult concepts of the original, and because we're obviously stripping out the Susan romance for obvious and sensible reasons, you kind of lose that heart of it. And, there's also the fact that Louise has no bearing on the plot whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, she literally does nothing.
She's there for the dads.
She's there for the first scene, I think, and then I can't remember her after that.
It's her idea to hurl themselves down the waste disposal chute. So there's that.
Right.
There's that.
Yeah, in your face, George Lucas.
So we've seen the genesis of Star Wars and Judge Dredd just from this one film,
incredible.
which I had the audacity to dismiss as a bit of hokey fun. But no, it's the genesis of all science fiction that ever happened afterwards.
And before, I mean, it's 1984, isn't it? Like, or just all of those, the Germans won the war thing. I think that's what's so weird about it. Like, the first film is, gloriously Technicolor and sort of camp and silly. And then the second film is a lot of ugly men in flat caps wandering around the ruins of London. And you kind of think,
it's like
why
a flying
are we...
picket squad.
It just seems like it's not going to work on paper. Like, it does seem like something that really someone should have put a stop to at the kind of pitching stage. Yeah, we're not going to do that. That's miserable.
Surely Philip Maddock turning up and being incredibly posh, doesn't that sort of help to win you back, or not really?
Yeah, and gay representation is nice in a children's film of the 1960s as well. So he's he's really great, isn't he? He's probably the best thing in it. My favourite thing is where he and, I can't even remember these people, is it David and the Doctor come out of the shed. And David says, those baked beans smell nice, because it's England immediately after the war, and that's the only thing that's available to eat. And he just kicks it over just to be a bastard.
He's like, try some. And he goes to reach for it and just kicks it over.
Yeah, he just kicks it over. And it's so wonderfully characterised. It's just like, I'm such a villain that I'm not even going to forego this stupid, childish way of getting at you. It's awesome. It's a really good bit of writing.
It's such a shorthand for being the ultimate evil. If you would even attack baked beans, you have no decency. You have not a shred of decency
It's
or
so
humanity.
good. It's so petty. petty. It's so gloriously petty.
Yeah, and he bought those beans for $44 billion, and now they're on the ground. They're only worth $8 billion, and no one else can have a good time.
I don't know what parallel you're making.
No, it escapes me. Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, Wait, no, the other space erection guy. Oh dear, that's a space thing we've never had in Doctor Who. Well, Revenge of the Sith. Sorry, Nathan.
Adric in Castrovalva.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. Cast your mind back. You may not want to.
Oh dear.
No,
You may have blanked it out.
Now there's a cosplay.
The hard-on power lines are lethal to the touch.
Oh dear. Terrible. So, yeah, in theory then, making this film a more kind of family fun, rompy, kind of light and fluffy film should have been more successful. In terms of, obviously, the franchise, there wasn't a third film, so it obviously wasn't as successful as the first film. Do we know any more beyond that? Does anyone know if it tanked or...
This film does tank, doesn't it? And it is, like, does England win the World Cup or have some... And so no one wants to go and watch, people wandering around a sort of bombed out London? Like, it's absolutely the wrong kind of mood for the time. And, I don't know. It really falls between two stools. I was texting Brendan as I was watching it yesterday, and I mentioned the comedy music that we get for the two Robomen dragging a dead body of another Roboman out of shot. I just think, what are we doing here? What are we aiming for?
Yeah, I mean... The tone is on like a dartboard that's revolving, and you're just throwing darts and... do this, do that.
There is the sort of hellish imagery of the whole sort of robotization process, which effectively involves 1960s hair salon hairdryers being
Yes.
the head,
Yes, I had fond memories of my mother when she was with us,
Yeah.
going to something very much like that. But she didn't have a moustache.
No.
Do you think Craddock looks like Mark Strickson's really let himself go? I was getting really definite vibes of that kind.
Yeah, like he's still wandering around talking about tractators. 10 years on.
Yeah, I love the robo helmets too. Like when they crack it open and there's like 3 resistors that you could have got for like 20 cents each.
Very high tech.
Yeah. No, but that's the dialogue.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Very
Yeah.
advanced. It's just terrific stuff.
If they had carried on with the films, obviously the conventional wisdom is they logically should have done the chase next.
Oh, I mean that's crying out for a movie version.
What other
surely.
stories could they have done? I mean,
Well, I always wondered, because Subotsky did sign a 3-film deal with Terry Nation. I've always wondered if perhaps he actually got the rights to the Keys of Marinus.
Oh, it's got fetish wear.
Yeah.
It's
Got fetish wear.
Yeah.
opportunities for more Bernard Cribbins in vinyl.
yeah,
Yes.
and more sheds with a bit of
Yes.
rapey
Yeah.
action.
Yep.
And look, just take out the Vord and put in the Daleks.
Dressed as
And-
Ford, though.
Dressed as Vord, yes.
We keep the costume.
Daleks in rubber gimp.
Yeah, for sure.
with the
What's
little
the point?
Your
Teletubby
mind,
antenna.
even at Christmas, is a very strange and scary little place.
Or maybe they would have signed Jean Marsh up for the Space Security Service movie.
Oh.
Where she's taking on the Daleks. Yeah.
Oh, I would have watched the shit out of it.
I'm kind of surprised Terry Nation couldn't get that off the ground in America, because it's exactly the kind of thing, the kind of sci-fi a lot of American audiences wanted in the 60s. Like, they had Star Trek, but you also had Lost in Space, which was very much that sort of Western themed kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure Jean Marsh had the right to work in America.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah,
She's in 9 to 5, the TV show, for God's sake.
Yes, yes. I found that out last
Roz.
week. Extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's ever been released on DVD.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
With Dolly Parton's little sister as Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
But I suppose if this film did tank, and obviously we're in 66, so a year or two further down the line, the show wasn't doing brilliantly in terms of ratings, and maybe they all just thought, yeah, no, the world has moved on from Doctor Who. Let's do movies based around 70s things, like, cops and car chases and smoking lots.
Yeah, punching people in the face, that sort of thing.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, no, I'd have watched that. But as long as it was like really bad punching where they clearly missed, but there's like the sound effect of a mild kind of slap.
There was a bit of that in this film. There was a fair bit of low effort fight arrangement, wasn't there?
Low effort combat. That is the genre TV show that we need. Patrick McNee stars in Low Effort combat.
Well, for him, it's just sitting by and letting Diana Rigg beat the shit out of someone, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. His idea of low effort combat is only eating one little cucumber sandwich during a fight scene. And who's to say he's wrong?
No.
Yeah.
So, Mark, what did you think last time? Well, when you recently watched this, has it aged well?
Well, I wouldn't say that. No. It's very much of its time, but I love it for what it is. I think it's tremendous fun. I mean, just the bizarre. It's. I mean, I know you were saying the original one was very camp and colourful, but I mean, surely the bit where they liberate the Dalek spaceship's got to be the campest fight scene ever committed to celluloid.
Wonderful.
You got these,
the Daleks
PVC
hurling
space
themselves to their
gimps
death.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
The one that crushes itself, I think, is just awesome. That's truly magnificent.
And there's the one that's become that meme now.
Yeah. I regret nothing.
No regrets.
So good. I love the Dalek control panels and things. I just think they're awesome. And that thing, which must have consumed like a quarter of the budget, the Rel countdown thing.
Oh, yeah.
Literally just going to mention that.
Good.
Yeah.
With the little panel where they've used a sort of, like one of those little drill bit things to put the word Rels in there.
They need that as an Apple Watch face. That'd be amazing,
It's
wouldn't it?
so good. So great.
So we've had Rels as being this, part of canon for 50, 60 years because Daleks don't use Earth numbers, apart from all the little numbers on the Rels clock, 1 through 100 in
just terrific.
It's lovely.
I think, is it Russell that brings Rels back to the main program? They've never been mentioned before Stolen Earth.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes. Yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah.
So good. It's so good. But just all of those lights and things. I mean, it just looks like the way, the office equipment in my dad's work looked, with sort of big, giant coloured buttons and stuff. It's so exciting. I would have the best time on that set. So much fun.
Well, I guess if the Daleks are just mainlining Licorice All Sorts and Haribo all day long, they're going to design something like that. And it's going to appeal to exactly the same sensibilities. So, yeah. There's like big red lollipops on the wall and lots of little twisty, turny... Oh, marvellous. I want to be a Dalek. I haven't really thought about it before. I thought I wanted to come back as a dolphin. But no, now I want to come back as a Dalek.
Of course, the precedent was set in the first film when they had that massive tombola thing that sort of the entire wall just came out, didn't it? And the whole thing span round. Yeah. Love it.
And both films have a really impressive tracking shot of Daleks discussing their plan. So, like in the first film, the black and red Daleks are coming towards the screen while a bunch of other Daleks crisscross behind them. And in this one, I think it's the golden black Dalek descending the spiral ramp and getting data as he goes along. And all I can think is,
My
for
God.
the love of God, stay on the
do
straight
not fall
path.
off. Yeah, there's no rails or anything, is there? I was thinking that
So,
time.
the Daleks are an OH&S nightmare.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
absolutely.
The banisters don't work, though. The one that kills itself, doesn't it just fall through the banister? Like, what's the point?
yeah, because they're really
No
bad at
protection at
building
all.
them. You know, they had some builders come in and build that middle one, and Terry Dalek has already fallen down it and had it rebuilt. So they're just like, well, look, we'll save the budget a little bit, and use it on marketing. Because
Well, it's like, more glue on the set is less sweets for the Daleks.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true.
And
That's
the
true.
Daleks discussed this at great length, very seriously, and their findings were sweets, 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 sweets. So, yeah, what are you going to do?
Although they did get that sort of, they did spend a fair amount of money of sort of on that weird red paint for the big giant bomb.
Yeah.
It's super brightly coloured. It's fantastic. It's awesome.
Yeah, I
and
love that.
very lightweight construction. Like, you can just easily divert it with a couple of sort of tied planks.
Yeah, some planks. Yeah.
I actually really like that bit because it's super explicable to the audience what he's
Yeah.
doing. Like, it's just, we don't have a scene where he explains to us what he's going to do. We can just tell he's diverting the bomb down. Where does it end up, do we think? Wales or something?
Probably.
Something
yeah.
that no one will miss.
Norwich.
Yeah.
Norwich. Leeds.
Well, unless we've got anything else to say, I think we should wrap it up and give it a score. Ian, come on, let's come to you first.
What am I scoring it against? Am I scoring it against like actual
We're-
proper Doctor Who stories?
What we're going to do is we're going to think about the movie
Yeah.
on its own and how
Okay.
much we enjoyed it
Oh, okay.
out of 10.
It's a 7.
That's solid.
Yeah.
Can you show your workings?
No.
No. Excellent.
I just did exactly what you said. I closed my eyes. I went
Yeah.
on a long mental journey, and fundamentally, at the bottom of the shortcomings, and the shortcomings of this are a lot less than the shortcomings of the TV iterations at the same time. It is, as we've said, a lot of fun and slightly silly. And if you imagine the Daleks are all off their tits on sugar, it's even better. So.
All very sound points. Nathan, what would you like to? I know you're not a scoring person, but just, humour us. It's Christmas.
Okay, so I'm going to give it a 6, and I'm going to give the bottle of red wine I drank while watching it last night a 9.
What sort of wine was it?
I don't know. I don't have time to read the labels of these.
Can you
things.
Can you go
it
and
a
get
cheeky Merlot?
get the
No,
bottle
it's-
out of the bin? Or actually, if you
It'd be
were watching
difficult
this
to
film, it's
find
probably
it
in
among the
pieces
other
when you
ones.
threw it.
What a picture you paint. And Brendan, what would you like to give it?
I think I will also give it a 6. Just because I think that a lot of it is quite thin, Jill Curzon doesn't get anything to do aside from stand there and look fabulous, which she does very well,
Despite
but
what
look-
she's dressed in.
Yeah. But look, Cribbins and Roberta Tovey are fantastic. Peter Cushing has far too much makeup on. Yeah, and it's just kind of like all the good bits of the TV version are there. They just often don't hit as well. But I will say that if there is ever a cinema screening of it near you, dear listener, it is worth going to watch these films on the big screen. It's absolutely worth it, and you do enjoy it more. Especially if you
Brendan-
have Richard next to you, elbowing you,
Yes, that's right.
making rude remarks about the Dalek pessary bomb.
You know, Brendan, you do say that everything good from the TV show is there, but can I just remind you of a little thing called the Slither?
Ah, yes.
I stand by my statement. But yeah, imagine a Slither with a movie budget.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. That would be incredible. Well, I think I'm going to side with Ian on this one. I'm going to go for a 7. I think I probably enjoyed it a little bit more than you guys, but then perhaps I'm just slightly more easily pleased. It's a lot of fun. It's very 60s. I mean, it's Cribbins. What's not to like about seeing Bernard Cribbins in his pomp, just, you know, being the action hero and just being daft and silly. And you got Peter Cushing. He's a bit of a legend.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of fun. And you know, Philip Maddock. It's got to be canon if Philip Maddock's in it, surely.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it from us. Shall we do any? Are we going to do recommendations this time, Ian, or are we just going to?
I haven't got any.
Nah,
so.
we'll just.
if that helps influence anyone's decision.
Christmas
Right,
pudding
so,
isn't nice, so I recommend avoiding the Christmas pudding. That's my recommendation.
Yep.
Mince pies and cream all round.
Yeah.
Yep.
Only real beef mince, though. Yeah.
Oh God. I heard someone the other day talking about they'd launched these. It was for a good cause. It was for a homeless charity, but they'd launched these super expensive caviar mince pies. That sounded revolting.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not eating something a fish is spoffed into, I tell you.
Beluga, I hardly know
That's
it.
probably not what they put on the packet.
And on that bombshell, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Let's all raise a glass.
All of you at home.
Yes, cheers. If you'd like to get in touch, you can email us at mailbagofrassilon@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter @TimeEndSpacePod, and you can also find us on Facebook. If you want to leave some audio feedback, there is a link in the show notes. You can use your phone or your computer and leave up to 60 seconds of feedback, or if you're listening via the Anchor website, you can click on the message button and leave your audio. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you to Momo Tempo for providing our theme music. Oh, nice.
Okay, I think that's probably better. I was going to put the "it is forbidden to dump bodies in the river" thing, just to be contrary, just to be a dick.
It's so out of character.
In our in our latest episode, we had Snog, Marry, Avoid, and it was the 3 versions of Clara. And I said I would avoid Victorian Clara just because everyone loves her so much for some reason.
Ooh. Such a contrarian.
Yes, exactly.
I think as a straight man, you'd also have to avoid Victorian Clara because she's Victorian, so she'd be less naughty.
Or more naughty.
I was going to say, I didn't get that impression
Do you
at all.
think-
Yeah, oh
Do you think
yeah.
Watching the
they were
snowmen,
naughty back
yeah.
then?
Yeah, she's DTF for sure. That Victorian thing was. Yeah. Yes, actually, I would not
Clara,
avoid.
bury me in a Y-shaped coffin, Oswald.
Yes, so I would not avoid the father of those children. He's super handsome. Nice beard. Okay. How do we start this? How do you start a podcast?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'll just find my way. I just tend to sort of fumble around, and hopefully something will happen.
Brilliant.
Actually, that sounded quite dodgy as well. Anyway, let's move on. Okay.
There's a sort of theme emerging.
There really is. I don't know why.
I feel very concerned.
I don't know why I've come over all. Well, I do. It's the company, isn't it? Let's be honest. All right.
All right.
There we go. I think that's it. Done and dusted.
You used the word spoffed on the podcast before.
Ooh.
No.
Possibly spaffed, but not
Okay,
spoffed.
all
Yeah,
right.
we've done.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah,
time
okay,
we've made a Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, fair enough.
Spaffer.
Spaffed it against the wall. Yeah.
Funnily enough, all the
And I said Daleks.
all the characters in this film who aren't sort of the Doctor and his friends are actually descended from Boris Johnson.
So
It's a
glad I know.
nightmarish. It's really a relief when the Daleks arrive and start killing people. I think.
Yeah, because at least the Daleks can do joined-up sentences.
that's
They've
right.
got serious, credible,
Yeah.
costed policies about urban regeneration.
Yeah.
Levelling up. We will level up in 60 realms. Yeah, that's great.
And in fairness, they don't lie very much. They're pretty matter of fact, aren't they? They just
No, they're totally upfront
nice
with the fact that they're
change.
going to chuck a giant bomb in the middle of something that's working perfectly well.
So again, there's
very
Elon
Boris
Musk.
Johnson.
Oh, that was really fun.
Thank you both so much. That was
Oh,
a
yeah,
great,
sorry to
great
drag
fun.
you up for this nonsense.
No,
Yes,
no.
thank
I
you for
was
getting up at the crack of dawn.
I've been up for hours, darling. Do you think I look like this after rolling out of bed?